Hello, my name is Mirella Amato. I'm a craft beer and sensory consultant based in Toronto, Canada. And today I'm on Cheers Chatty.
Hi, Mirella.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Very well, yeah. And how's the lockdown treating you?
Well, I work from home, so it hasn't really been very different for me at all. I don't think it's been as much of an adjustment as it has for people who are used to going into the office every day. I'm also taking advantage of this time to study a little bit more because obviously I have less travel time or time out. And so I've been honing my hop sensory skills.
Oh, wow.
I fortunately, right before this happened, bought a hop sensory kit that breaks down all of the different aromas that you can find in hops.
Hops, yeah.
And I've been training myself on them every day because hops are really, in the sensory space where I work, an emerging field. The vocabulary, we're just starting to formalize it now. The different techniques we use for sensory and hops are just being confirmed.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in being a part of that movement.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Nice thing that I've been able to do because my partner is also home with me, and so that allows me to do blind testing where they're just handing over the different.
Yeah, actually, this is the best time to study and to catch up with everything that you would ever want to read up. Hello, Babus. This is Chatty from Cheers Chatty, and today we have a celebrity amongst us, and it's the first of a lot of things. One is this is the first time we have someone from Canada on a podcast. Secondly, Mirella is an international judge, beer judge, the only Master Cicerone from Canada. That's right, Mirella?
Yes.
Yes. And she's the author of the book Beerology. And there's more and more to her. Okay, she promotes the art of beer appreciation through her company called Beerology. And she's also received the knighthood from the knighthood of the Brewers Panel. And I think I can go on and on with a lot of her achievements. And one podcast may not be enough for you, actually, Mirella. But anyway, we'll move on. So tell me, how did you get onto this entire craft beer industry? Was this something that you always had a passion for, or you just like kind of jumped in?
It is actually, yeah. I had an unusual experience, I think.
Okay.
In that I discovered craft beer before I discovered mainstream beer.
Okay.
It just so happened that when I first started going out to pubs, when I reached drinking age, my drinking buddy at the time was from England, and so immediately introduced me to locally brewed ales, to cask conditioned ale, and I developed a real passion for it. And back then, craft beer was very, very niche. It was something only a few of us knew about. It certainly wasn't something that I could have considered as a career.
Okay.
But as soon as the craft industry started growing, I dove in. I've now been working in craft beer for 12 years.
Wow.
And over these 12 years, my services have evolved, and I've gotten to a stage now where I'm really found my true passion and my calling in beer, which is craft beer and sensory consultant, doing things like helping companies that are looking to get more involved in the beer space.
Okay.
And helping them navigate beer from a sensory perspective. So, for example, I'm working with an app right now, and we're creating a Netflix-like algorithm.
Oh,
so
lovely.
that if people like one beer, the app will then tell them which other beers they might like based on their preferences. So I am contributing the map that's going in the background there. And then within the beer industry, of course, I'm helping breweries with their sensory program and their quality control.
So this app that you're speaking about, is this AI-enabled artificial intelligence, or is it like, some algorithms that, is based on that?
It's an algorithm.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. But that's very interesting because, it makes life so much easier that based on your preferences of beer, you can also track the kind of foods that you would like to eat with that, or what is recommended. And
so that's also something we're looking into maybe as a next step. I think the exciting thing right now is that a lot of people are very curious about craft beer.
Yeah.
Which when I started was, as I mentioned earlier, was not the case. Nobody even knew what craft beer was. Now people are excited. They want to get started, but they don't know how to start. So an app like this is very useful to help people. Everyone knows at least one or two beers that they like, and then from there I can make recommendations.
That's very true. In fact, it's booming big time in India as well. It's this entire revolution of craft beer that's happening out here, and a lot of people in the industry, especially women. So it's very encouraging to see. I was very surprised when I started off with Cheers Chatty, and I started doing podcasts. I was pleasantly surprised the number of women that are there, and they're doing such a fantastic.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, and their families and their parents are so supportive. It's really very nice.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so I feel very good, especially when I speak with them and they hear their stories. So it's a nice thing. And moving on, Mirella, I was seeing your videos. They were so simple. You have these 4 videos on questioning old beer habits. And they're very short and sweet. I especially love the cut, complement, and contrast one.
Right.
Yeah.
So these 4 videos I created are questioning old beer habits that we have in the industry. I feel like the industry, of course, as anyone can see, and it sounds like it's the same that's happening in India, has just grown exponentially, and all of these different styles are available now, and all of these different flavors are available now. But what I notice is that the way we talk about beer is still the same as the way we were talking about beer in the 80s. It hasn't really evolved much. So the purpose of these videos, which I posted on YouTube, you can find them on my channel, which is Beerology. I'm Beerology everywhere.
Yeah.
Is really to raise some questions and to try to push things to the next level. So the cut, complement, and contrast one that you mentioned is questioning the idea that when you do food pairing, you have to cut, complement, or contrast, which is, again, something that we borrowed from wine and that we've been talking about for years, but it's not the best approach, and especially not now when we have so much variety in styles and flavors. So what this video is explaining is that if you want to create a good food pairing, you have to cut, complement, and contrast. You have to do all 3 in one pairing.
Yeah. It's so simple. Normally people get extremely overwhelmed. What do I eat with what? And then they try to make it too sophisticated. Actually, it's like a simple eating habits which we've grown up with. You just need to use a little logic and common sense. That's about it.
Yeah, that's right. Food pairing technique is pretty universal, and what you need to really do is to break down the food and examine it. So how rich is it? How sweet is it? Is it sour? Is it spicy? What are the individual flavors? And then if you're able to do that with both the food and the beer, it's quite easy to make that connection.
And since we're talking about India, is there anything in specific that the Indians need to follow as far as food pairings with beer is concerned?
I would say that it's pretty much universal. Again, if you're really paying attention to what's there, then the question is finding the right beer. There is a beer for every food, every mood, and every occasion. That is my motto that I have based my entire career on.
Okay.
And so there is a beer for every food. It doesn't matter where the food is from. It doesn't matter what the ingredients are. Again, you just have to get back to those very basic questions.
Yeah.
How rich and intense is this food? If it's super rich and intense, you don't want to take a very, very light beer.
Yeah.
That the food is just going to bowl it over. You might as well be drinking a glass of water, right?
Yeah.
And on the flip side, if the food is very, very delicate, you don't want to grab a super intense beer. I have done some work with Indian food.
Oh, really? Okay.
My favorite dish actually is Master Cicerone. And
lovely.
so I really enjoy that with an English bitter. So I'll give you the example.
Okay.
So what I find with the English bitter is the balance is there. It's a beer that has a lot of complexity. It has a lot of different flavors in the same way as the Master Cicerone does, but it's not a very strong beer that's going to, bowl over the delicate flavors in that dish.
Yeah.
And then if you zoom in a little closer, you'll notice that there are rich malt notes in that beer. They're earthy, so they tie in nicely with the tomato sauce and the peas.
Yeah.
The hop notes give a little bit of spice. They're very delicate. They're tea-like, so they tie in again with the very delicate spices in that dish. That dish is not a super spicy, super intensely spicy dish. And then that little bit of bitterness, that's what's going to provide your contrast or your cut, and it's going to cut through the richness of that dish. So it's just a wonderful little combination there.
You just laid out the entire table.
I have my own podcast called Hot Plate.
Hot Plate, yeah, I did go through it actually, yeah.
So the woman that I do the podcast with, her name is Joshna. And she has Indian roots.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we do this segment on Hot Plate called Blind Beer Date.
Okay.
And the idea is that I bring one of the beers from my house, or I buy a beer, and she brings in a food. And I don't know what she's bringing in, and she doesn't know what I'm bringing in. So it's a blind date.
Blind date, okay.
And we taste them together, and we see if they work
together.
So as I mentioned, she does have Indian roots, and I think her mom had just been to visit, and she brought back something called chiki.
Yeah. Oh, chiki. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, it was pistachio nuts. I think it had maybe rose water in it, cardamom.
It has a lot of jaggery.
So she brought those, and I brought in Flanders Red Ale. I don't know if you're familiar with Rodenbach.
I have, of course. Yes. Yeah.
It's a beer that has a sweet side to it, a bit of a sour side. It's quite fruity.
Yeah.
And so we paired them together, and it was a nice pairing. I would say it wasn't a spectacular pairing, but it worked very nicely together, and so that's another.
But that's very interesting, beer with.
I like to. Toronto's a very multicultural city. We have access to so many different foods, so I've really had the luxury of being able to experiment with cuisines from all over the world and pair them with beer, and I have yet to find a food that doesn't have a beer that works with it.
Actually, beer just goes well with everything. It's like potatoes, there isn't anything that it doesn't work with. So it's very easy on the palate, and it just cuts through everything. It does not have any inhibitions. And
what kind of beer styles are popular in India right now? Are there some dominant styles, or is it really a huge variety?
See, right now the way people are looking at beer and the way they're tasting beer, so we are moving from this entire bottled beer generation to craft beer, and it's like, it's just like a tsunami of all styles of beer and varieties of beer. So people are just grabbing every style that they get and are experimenting with everything. So there isn't anything that's established that this is what is most popular in India. Okay, this is my opinion. But having said that, there are certain myths that are definitely getting, crashed. Like people say that women don't like bitter beers or don't like IPAs. But I see a lot of them drinking IPAs. They say women only have sweet stuff. That's not true at all. So IPAs are getting popular. I'm a big fan of stout. So I see quite a few women drinking stout as well. But otherwise, your wheat is your most popular and safe to go beer.
Wow, that sounds like exciting times out there.
Very exciting times, extremely exciting.
Yeah. I remember when that was happening here. It's so fun to discover all of these different flavors and all of these different possibilities in terms of what beer can be. Because a lot of people have a very narrow idea of what beer can be, and it can be so much things, from very low alcohol to high alcohol, from refreshing to very rich and chewy. It's an exciting beverage.
The most important thing is that people are asking, they're curious as well. It's not like they're drinking something because it's the new thing and it's a trend thing. So, because I need to put up an Instagram post with showing off this craft beer. That's not the idea. It's like people are talking to the brewers, they're interacting with the brewsters, and they're asking questions as well. So that's very, very nice about the audiences.
Oh, for sure. That's one of the most wonderful things about craft beer.
Yeah, and you want people to know. You want to educate them. Yeah, So it's quite like I go to a lot of breweries and I observe a lot of these guzzlers sitting there, and it's not just the millennials. Although we have the largest population of millennials in this world, even the evolved guys, they are also getting extremely educated about beers and. They're trying different styles, so that's good for the industry and that's good for beer most importantly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's curious about beer and happy to read in English or French or German, I would recommend my book, which is a very entry-level book, and it's designed to be a journey of self-discovery. So it's really designed for people who are curious about beer, who want to learn more. And you can read it from front to back, or you can start in any section and then take it from there, and it'll help you better understand your palate. It'll help you understand how to pair beer with food. It has all kinds of activities that you can use to learn how to better describe beer. And it's a fun adventure. I'm very proud of it.
In fact, I want to get my hands on it as well, and more than anything else, I also want to I'm planning to put up a post on your book on my social media pages. So all you bubbles, it's because I find your style of educating people and telling people about beer extremely simple. So I think that's what people are looking for, and that's what people want.
It is honed. So when I started 12 years ago, my goal with my company Beerology is to help drive the industry forward. And 12 years ago when I started, I spoke to all of my local brewers and I said, what is the best thing I can do to help you?
Yeah.
And they all said, well,
just educate us.
We're making all these amazing beers, but not everyone understands these beers. Not everyone, people will taste it and they're expecting a light and refreshing golden lager, and suddenly this beer is black and it has these intense coffee and chocolate notes. And if someone could explain it to them, I'm sure they would love it. But if they don't, then it's too startling an experience. So I spent, I would say, the first 8 or 9 years that I was in my company doing public tastings and talking to people about beer and introducing them to beer. And of course, when I'm doing presentations, I'm not talking at people. I'm not just standing there and talking.
Okay.
I'm asking questions, I'm interacting, and I'm finding out, how does the beginner see beer? What aspects of beer are important for someone to understand when they're first getting into beer, and what aspects are just too technical? Yeah. Because beer can very quickly get, as I'm sure you know, very technical.
Of course, And
so some of these technical aspects are just really not critical to a beginner. They're not critical to an understanding of beer, and that one of the YouTube videos that I created in that series about questioning old habits touches on this. But over those years, I honed and I perfected how I talked about beer for it to be as welcoming as possible, and for people who are new to beer to be able to understand it and to relate to it as quickly as possible. And so it's that 8 to 10 years of work that I then condensed and put into my book. So
the results are showing.
What you'll find there is all of the basics that you need, but I'm really happy to hear that you have detected the fact that I do have a voice that is different and I have an approach that is different, and that is based on experience. It's really based on speaking to people who are just discovering beer and getting them excited about beer and developing a way to talk about beer that is as inviting as possible.
In fact, every Indian, I'm speaking from my country, that and everyone who's in the beer and brewing industry should have your book as a Bible. You know, it's one of those things one should. In fact, even as a beer enthusiast, I'm definitely going to get one for myself. That's for sure. So
it's quite common here that bars all have it in the back, so that if because again it can be read back to back, or it's also laid out, so it can be a quick reference if you come across a style you don't know, or if you come across something you're not familiar with, you can quickly pop in, read what is an overview of that style, what food does it pair well with, just a quick snapshot, and it's able to address quick questions very effectively. So I'm delighted to see a lot of people use it as a quick reference.
I'm going to make sure people do that in India, Mirella. Watch me on that. Okay, I saw you experimenting a lot with beer gadgets, okay? And that was damn fun. I kept looking at it. I saw it a couple of times. I saw one which is the beer foam gadget, okay? And it's very interesting, and it got me thinking that how important it is. Of course, these accessories and all that a general, I'm not talking about a brewer, but a beer drinker, beer enthusiast, and a beer lover should be having these gadgets.
Yeah, so that's the question I set out to answer with this series. It was a bit more of a playful series. It's the one I did right before questioning the beer habits. And the idea behind it was that there are all of these gadgets out there that are designed, most of them are designed to create a better foam on your beer. There's ones that you dip into your beer and it causes it to foam. There's ones that are like a mat that you put under the beer. And there was one that turns foam into ice cream, all these crazy gadgets. And I've always seen them around, and as a beer professional, I've always sort of looked at them and thought, well, that's silly. But then I realized it's not really fair to make that judgment without trying them. So, I got a friend of mine who is an actor and a comedian to join me, and we had fun with these gadgets. We tested every single one of them. And at the end of the day, I would say no. There are no gadgets that you really need for beer. The one that I still use is called I only use one of them. It's called the menu foamer. But I don't use that when I'm drinking beer. I use it when I'm making beer cocktails. So it's really fun when you're making a beer cocktail to be able to put a foam head on it so that it looks like beer. This gadget allows you to do that. I have a recipe again on YouTube that you can check if you want. It's called Mogu.
Okay, most definitely will do that.
The Mogu cocktail is actually made with the Rodenbach, which you've just let me know you've had before, so I'm guessing it's available in India.
Definitely,
And it does use the menu foamer to create a foam on top. You don't need the menu foamer to make this cocktail. It's a delicious cocktail. But that's the only gadget that I use. And I would say if you're a beer drinker who just likes to drink beer and is not making cocktails with their beer, then you don't need any gadgets. All you really need, and I can't emphasize this enough, is a glass. Because the one thing that will create a good foam and a great drinking experience is a proper pour.
Fantastic. And Mirella, before we sign off, one very important question is that have you been to India before? And regardless, when are you coming next?
I have not yet been to India. I don't have any plans to come right now. I have had 3 or 4 job offers from India to help craft breweries get started. And unfortunately, the timing has never worked out. I was already traveling at that time. So I look forward to a future opportunity, and hopefully next time the timing will work out better, because I've heard only great things. My cousin lived in India for 2 years and
fantastic.
Just had so many wonderful things to say about the culture and the food, and so I very much hope to get
Where
there
in
soon.
India did your
I
cousin live?
suspect I will, because I do get fairly regular job offers to come to India.
No, I think you should definitely come. And please get Joshua along as well.
Yeah, I could get Joshua to come. We could do a hot plate episode up there. That would be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. At least, are you part of the Pink Boot Society, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been a member of the Pink Boot Society since their very first meeting in San Diego in 2008. I was there, and I'm the leader of the Toronto chapter of Pink Boots, yes.
So as part of Pink Boots, they should definitely get you to India. If not, we'll definitely try and bring you out here. We need someone like you.
That sounds great. I would love that.
And that was fantastic, Mirella, speaking with you. Thank you so much for sparing the time for us and getting on this podcast.
Likewise, it was my pleasure.
And hoping to see you a lot more. And of course, as I've said this earlier, I'm going to get a book of yours and also write something about it on Cheers Chatty.
Fantastic. I appreciate the support.
Thank you so much, Mirella. Okay, babus, that was Mirella Amato from all the way from Canada, our first celebrity guest, and it was absolutely wonderful. She had the time, she spent the time, and all those people who are hearing this podcast, please follow her on Beerology, on her YouTube channel, on her own podcast as well. And everyone, please take care, stay at home, be safe, and drink lots of beer. Thank you. Good night.